The RX 550 is nothing special, however being a very cheap and available graphics card means many a gamer is likely to give it a go with Final Fantasy 15. And my consensus is the RX 550 is more than capable of delivering a rudimentary experience, but of course with some major compromises. Vega 64 this GPU is not, and most of you realize that, so what sort of compromises am I speaking of? Before anything, I want to disclose that this RX 550 is not being tested on the same machine I tested the i3-2120 with. The RX 550 is paired with a dual-core i3-2120 with 10GB of DDR3 on Windows 7. That's right, a Sandy Bridge dual-core processor from 2011. Before you balk at my usage of it, for the very most part, the CPU was not a bottleneck in any of my tests. I'll further expound on this in a bit. Focusing back on the RX 550 from the get-go, it cannot maintain 1080p at the minimal graphics settings unless you're okay with a frame rate teeter-tottering around 30 FPS. It's not too far off below 30, but enough to cause some uncomfortable moments for many gamers. A drop in resolution to 1600x900 brings us back above 30 while opening up enough performance to increase the visual fidelity. If we configure the graphics options to what I settled with on the Radeon R9 but without ambient occlusion, we're back in the same issue we had with 1080p. FPS is often below 30 FPS, so once again we need to drop the resolution if we want higher quality pixels, this time to 1366x768 to keep us north of 30 FPS. Once it gets so far down, very much so at 720p, the blurring issue that comes with temporal anti-aliasing becomes more apparent. However, it's still superior to FXAA when it comes to the jaggies, and of course no anti-aliasing at all is simply all the jaggies your heart could ever desire. But with climbing frame rates and quality settings, we need to go back to discussing the CPU usage issue. CPU usage only got high enough to be of note when the graphic settings were increased and the resolution was decreased. This combination increases the draw call sent by the CPU to the GPU, but with a lowered resolution allows the GPU to process frames fast enough to where the CPU needs to be spitting out more draw calls to keep the GPU fed. The highest CPU usage figures I saw were when I set the resolution to 720p. Here it jumped into the 90s. Luckily, FF15 isn't like Battlefield 1 as it runs on hyper-threaded dual-core i3s without any real problems. But looking back at the RX 550 and how it handles the game, in short I think 1366x768 with TAA is a nice sweet spot, because it'll allow for some of the average settings to be enabled with good enough frame rate. Mono LOD, TRAM, anisotropic filtering, lighting, and shadows can all be set to average with TAA enabled, and we still get above 30 FPS for the most part. If you're desperate though, and you're ballsy enough, you can literally turn the RX 550 to 11 like I did and overclock the shit out of it. Warranty be damned, crank the sucker up to 1400 MHz and a whole new range of possibilities are yours, thanks to 23% more G-flops. If you kill your GPU, it's your fucking fault, it's not mine. But it makes 1080p workable and with TAA added to boot. Not just temporal anti-aliasing, but more tits and ass. Ahem. Sorry, I got a little too excited there. So I think I provided y'all enough information to make your own conclusions. If you got an RX 550, you can play this game. You definitely can. I don't think anyone doubted the RX 550 would be able to handle it. We just needed an idea of how far it could take this game in terms of performance, and now we have a very good idea. My name is Blitzvogel, thanks for watching, make sure to like and subscribe. I know it's been out for a while and we all have a really good idea of how the RX 550 handles, but I think I'm going to do an Overwatch on the RX 550 video next. I just bought the game recently when it was on one of its half-off sales, so make sure to subscribe so you catch that as it comes out of the pipeline. And I'll see you guys next time.
None the worse for wear.